Donald Trump ties himself in knots, attacking his former White House counsel, Don McGahn, who, by defying Trump's orders, likely spared the president a worse fate in special counsel Robert Mueller's criminal obstruction of justice investigation. It's the testimony of another former top aide that may present an even greater political threat to the president. New reporting in the New York Times reveals that on 3 occasions, Donald Trump sought to have his Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, investigate and prosecute his former rival, Hillary Clinton. From that Times report, quote, Mr. Mueller's report released last week brimmed with examples of Mr. Trump seeking to protect himself from the investigation. But his request of Mr. Sessions and 2 similar ones detailed in the report stands apart because it shows Mr. Trump trying to wield the power of law enforcement to target a political rival, a step that no president since Richard Nixon is known to have taken. Everyone's still here. Heidi, this would seem to be the kind of material in that Mueller report that lets Democrats paint the kind of picture Harry and Nick are talking about of just textbook abuse of power.
This is something, Nicole, that I think is actually really undercovered and that we will learn years from now about the extent of this president's attempts to interfere with the Justice Department. We're only scratching the surface of it. We've seen it in many manifestations, including when the president warned as a candidate that he would never allow the AT&T Time Warner deal to go through, and then having the Justice Department then step in. And we still don't know the whole story there, just like we still don't know the full extent to which he's pressured Sessions, into which he's pressured the current Attorney General, all things that were stopped or attempted to be stopped after Watergate. That's why the U.S. created a contacts policy against this type of interference by the executive with the Justice Department, because the Justice Department and the Attorney General is not supposed to be the president's personal attorney.
You worked for Hillary Clinton. Can you imagine the specter of investigating and prosecuting Hillary Clinton?
I mean, it makes me physically ill. And I remember after we lost, that was my, that was like the thought on Thursday was, oh my God, he's going to lock her up. Like, he's going to do it. He is going to put her in jail. And it's still chilling to this day. And thank God people of Justice Department fought it. But, and all of this is getting dumped in Nancy Pelosi's lap. And I agree with what Donnie said before the break about how if you can, structure this message-wise as a broader pattern of corruption that hurts real people, that's great. It's like that's hard to execute day to day. But I trust Nancy Pelosi to be able to balance this. I think a lot of people think she's like really scared of and against impeachment. I'm not sure that's true. I think she's pretty good at playing rope-a-dope. I'm pretty sure she's given Trump a lot of rope to say we need the report. Now we need the unredacted report, and we're going to go through hearings and not jump to conclusions. But I think that she's prepared to do her constitutional duty, and if that's where it leads her, legitimately, she's willing to do it. But she's also very savvy, and so she knows if I ask for an infrastructure meeting at the White House, that's going to get covered. That's going to get a lot of coverage, and knows how to try to show the Democrats are doing their job to hold the president accountable, but fight for people too.
So what was so stunning about this New York Times story is that Sessions, and I understand everything is relative, but Sessions is the hero and Trump is the villain in this particular anecdote. Trump 3 times going to Sessions and saying prosecute Hillary Clinton, Sessions saying no.
Thanks for clarifying that, because Sessions is not Sessions, is the hero here.
I want to show you who the new Attorney General is and ask if you think this would go down the same way.
I think spying on a political campaign is a big deal. It's a big deal.
So you're not suggesting, though, that spying occurred?
I don't. I guess you could. I think spying did occur. Yes, I think spying did occur.
Harry Litman, that's the country's new Attorney General, someone who embraces the fringiest view about the authorized surveillance authorized by a FISA court of Carter Page, one of the early people known to have contacts with Russians at the very beginning of the investigation into contacts between Trump's orbit at a time when they were assumed to perhaps have been unwittingly in contact with Russians. The country's Attorney General described it as spying, really a lexicon only heard on Fox News and conservative talk radio. The next time Trump, who 3 times wanted to prosecute Hillary Clinton. The next time Trump wants to do that, that's the man who'll pick up the phone. What do you think he'll say?
Yeah, and he also wrote something about this as a private citizen. Look, well, actually, one of the great details in the report, Jeff Sessions took to every time he met with Trump carrying a resignation letter in his pocket. What do I think he'll say? I think he'll say no, just because, look, this is not just vicious, it's just completely unhinged. And one gets the picture of Mad King Donald skulking around in his own grievances and coming up with crazy ideas and coming down and ordering people around. I see what you mean. Trump has been a champion of executive power, etc. But I mean, it is such a Looney Tunes idea that whatever champion of Trump he's been to date, that I think is a bridge too far.
Harry, Donnie Deutsch, we've talked a lot on this show about that. To me, the Southern District was always the problem for Trump, not Mueller. How does it work? Obviously, they've been working on investigations, and Barr, to me, is the scariest of all the critters that showed up at Trump World. Does he have the ability to just call up the Southern District, we'll see how sovereign they are, and say, hey, you know what? Executive privilege, hold off on anything. That's the scary thing to me. I know when I watch Billions, Jeff Coat can do that. He calls up Chuck and he says, you can't do that. How does that game work as far as a direct line into the Attorney General?
He can definitely do it. In theory, the Deputy Attorney General does it, but he does it. And you're right, it's really a matter of sort of fortitude and character. So could Sessions, so for that matter could Whitaker. But the Southern District of New York has always had ways to fight back, which it still does. Some of them sneaky, some of them just flat out aggression. But yes, if they actually, butt heads, the AG wins.
Look, I think you saw in that hearing that phase 1 of the Trump presidency is over and phase 2 has begun. And what that means is, although I think a lot of people in the Democratic Party feel that the White House is full of enablers and lapdogs, what we saw from the Mueller report was that actually there were a fair number of folks in there who were trying to keep some guardrails on the president's behavior. Most of those people are now gone. They have left. They've been replaced by people who are more reliable to the president, who are acting, who can be dispensed with more easily. And now we have an AG who compares a duly authorized warrant to spying in the way you would compare a cop executing a search warrant of breaking and entering. It's not the same thing. But he is there for that purpose, it seems.
Really important point. Let me just give you one follow-up. Is there anyone that in the Mueller report comes across as a guardrail that's still there?
I don't know. I'm thinking of people like Sessions and Don McGahn, for example, and those guys are gone. What we saw in the report was that they held firm at key moments, and it's hard to see from the outside. But we now have the ultimate, sort of a White House memoir, right, which is the Mueller report, and we can see that there were people trying their best, and not on policy, obviously, in some ways, but constantly fighting against things that the president wanted to do. Kirstjen Nielsen, for example, not always winning, but trying. They're gone.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.